I hardly ever use jigs or fixtures in my woodworking, but for hand tool woodworking, I cannot get by without a good shooting board. A shooting board squares up your crosscuts so your joints can fit together cleanly. It also slices that end grain for a nice finish, so if you have to show the end of a board in a project, it actually looks good. I also love shooting boards for trimming and shaping small components because it's safe for my fingertips, but also very accurate. And I have built a bazillion of these over the years, and I have figured out some features that are really important. For one thing, I like a sliding fence because the end of the fence always gets chewed up and gappy. If you can slide it over and trim it, you always have a fresh, clean edge to support the end grain of your work. I also like to keep my shooting boards small so they're easy to handle and store, but I use this detachable stock support. That way I can shoot boards of any length. And we built all these features into the new advanced shooting board from my company, Compass Rose Tools. We made our shooting board out of Baltic birch plywood, so it's going to come flat and stay flat. And we cut out all the components on big industrial CNCs for super high accuracy and squareness. And our advanced shooting board is a kit. It's a quick, fun project that you can do in an afternoon. In fact, let's knock one together right now. First, we're going to label all the pieces. There's only 9 of them, so it's not complicated, and our free assembly guide makes it easy to get the right letter on the right part. We're going to glue piece B to piece A. Those are the 2 biggest pieces in the kit, but before we glue them together, take piece B, that's the one with the logo, flip it over and you're going to plane a chamfer on this edge on the underside. It's just a few strokes with the hand plane. You're making a pretty narrow chamfer, maybe a 1/16 of an inch. And when the chamfer is done and you put B back on top of A, you're going to have a nice dust groove right in here. That's going to give shavings and sawdust a place to go so that they don't mess up our plane while we're shooting. Put glue on the back of piece B and set it on top of A. Use the left edge to line everything up. Then, inside your hardware pack are a bunch of wooden dowel pins. Grab 4 of those, put them into the 4 alignment holes and tap them in with a hammer or mallet, but don't go crazy. You don't want them sticking out the bottom. For a good connection, I'm going to need some clamping pressure, but this is a big surface, so I need to spread that pressure out with cauls. I'm going to use pieces C1, C2, and E and arrange them in a zigzag pattern just the way you see here. Those 3 clamps are going to be enough to distribute the clamping force over the whole thing and give me a nice flat shooting board. With the clamps and cauls, we've got nice even pressure over the whole thing, except this area here is tough. It's almost impossible to get a clamp in here. So what we've done is added an additional hole right here, and your hardware kit has 1 wood screw in it. And we're going to use that wood screw to give us that last bit of clamping pressure. I'm going to use my cordless drill with a small bit, something around 1/8, and that gives me a pilot hole, and then I can take that wood screw and a Phillips head screwdriver and just run that all the way in, and that's going to give me the last little bit of clamping pressure that I need. Those 2 big pieces are going to take about a half an hour to dry, and after we take the clamps off, we can flush cut the dowels and take out that clamping screw. But while we're waiting for them to dry, this is the perfect time to put together the fence. That's pieces F1 and F2. Piece F1 has a pocket right here. We want to make sure that pocket is facing down. Piece F2 goes on top. The 2 pieces have 1 notched corner, and those 2 notches line up just like that. Once we have that alignment straightened out, we're going to put glue in between the 2 pieces, but be careful not to get any inside of these oval slots. Put the 2 pieces together, add 2 alignment pins from your hardware pack, and a little clamping pressure. But it doesn't take much. A couple of squeeze clamps is perfect. While the fence dries, we'll put together the stock support. That's the piece that lets us work on long boards. You'll notice one of the pieces in your kit is actually 4 small pieces joined together. We did this because small pieces are easy to lose. Label those 4 pieces using the guide and then cut them free using any saw. We're going to start with pieces D and E. D is a 1/2 inch thick and has a ledge here on top. E is 3/4 of an inch thick and has a ledge here on the bottom. We're going to put them together like this with a little bit of glue in between. On this top ledge, we're going to get piece J. It's got a pocket in it. That pocket needs to be down and to the right, just like that. And then piece I goes on top. And you can double check yourself because these alignment holes travel all the way through. Now that I've got all this stuff lined up, I'm going to add glue, 2 pins, and a clamp. And down at the bottom, it's really similar. We're going to take piece G. This one also has a pocket, except this time the pocket needs to face up and also to the right. And then on top of that, we're going to put piece H. And it's the same thing. Glue, 2 pins, and a clamp. And while the glue is still wet, you can do a quick double check on the top here. That pocket is facing down and to the right. And on this bottom piece here, the pocket is facing up and also to the right. If you've got that, go ahead and let the piece dry. Our shooting board has a cleat on the underside. It hooks to the front of the workbench and keeps your shooting board in place, even if you're working aggressively. That cleat needs to be super strong, so we're attaching it with a dado in the underside, plus pins and glue. Your cleat pieces are pieces C1 and C2. C1 has a pocket in it, and that pocket needs to be facing down and to the right. Piece C2 is symmetrical, so you can put it on in any direction you want. It'll fit no matter what. Glue, pins, clamps. Remember, the fence of our shooting board slides back and forth so that you can always get a clean, fresh edge against your work. But since we want it to slide, it's really important that you don't put glue inside the fence dado on the face of the shooting board. Instead, we're going to use hardware. Before we get to that, we want to put a really slight chamfer just on this edge right here. I'm going to take a file, put it against that edge, lean it towards me at about a 45-degree angle, and work it back and forth until I create a very small chamfer. Around a 1/16 of an inch is perfect. This is another place for dust to go. It's going to fall inside of this chamfer instead of sitting against the fence and pushing our workpiece out of alignment. Once you've made that chamfer, go ahead and flip your shooting board over. Grab a pair of T-nuts out of your hardware pack. It's these little mushroom-shaped things right here, and we're going to glue these in. You can use super glue or 5-minute epoxy, really anything that'll stick to metal, and you don't have to glue them in. It's optional. It just makes later steps a little bit easier. Our fence is cleaned up and ready to install. It's got a pocket on one end. That pocket goes down and to the left, and the fence drops snugly right into that fence dado. Go to your hardware kit and grab 2 bolts and 4 washers. Each bolt gets 2 washers, and then they drop right into the oval holes on the top of the fence, and because we glued in those T-nuts, you should be able to get them started just with your fingers. To tighten up that hardware, you're going to need a 4mm and 5mm Allen wrench. What's that? You don't have a set of metric Allen wrenches? No problem. We're including the 2 that you need right in the kit. Put the 5mm Allen key in the back and grab the nut, and then use the smaller 4mm Allen key to turn the bolt and snug the fence down. It doesn't have to be super tight, just firm. The last thing we're going to do is connect up our stock support, and that attaches to the main shooting board with some pieces of 1/2-inch dowel. In your hardware pack, you have a single piece of 1/2-inch dowel. We're just going to eyeball center on that and saw it into 2 equal pieces. Oh, by the way, you might notice you've still got 2 leftover dowel pins in your hardware pack. That's not an accident. We threw in a couple extras because we know stuff like that gets lost. After you've sawn apart your pieces of 1/2-inch dowel, clean up the ends with a piece of sandpaper to give them a little chamfer. Now, we're going to take those pieces of 1/2-inch and we're just going to fit them into the stock support. We worked very hard to get a snug fit in these 2 holes, and it works pretty well. Then flip that up, and you can push those pieces right into your main shooting board. Now, it's very useful to glue those pieces of 1/2-inch dowel into the stock support, not into the main shooting board. That way they're not sticking out when you're not using the stock support. And as soon as all of that is done, congratulations, your shooting board is complete and ready for a little tuning. Every shooting board, whether it's from a kit or built from scratch, needs a couple of finishing steps. This is called shooting in. Because we have an adjustable fence, we're going to knock ours out of the way. Just takes a couple of hammer taps to get it back behind that shelf. And then we're going to take our hand plane, put it right against the shooting board, and start taking shavings. And you will notice that your hand plane is cutting your shooting board, which seems weird. Isn't it supposed to not do that? Well, after a few strokes, you'll find that it stops and doesn't cut anymore. And that's because the corner of the mouth of your plane prevents it from cutting more than a tiny bit. And once you've done the shooting in process, your plane should never cut the edge of your shooting board ever again. Now what we also want to do is shoot in our fence for an ultra tight fit. So we're going to knock that fence back over and feel along this edge here. And what you want is for the fence to stick out the tiniest possible amount, just the thickness of a piece of paper. And what we're going to do is shoot off that extra material. And it's plywood, so it's not easy. But now that I've done that, I have a super, super tight fit between the end of my fence and the sole of my hand plane. There's basically zero gap, and that means when I go to shoot pieces of wood, that end grain isn't going to break out. Now, my shooting board is done and tuned up, and it's 100% ready to go. But I hear you saying, Rex, that is a very nice shooting board, but it's not for me. I own the Veritas shooting plane, and I'm going to get the Veritas shooting board track, and whatever shooting board I build or buy, it's going to have to work with both of those tools. So, do you mean this shooting plane and this shooting board track? Because if you do, I have good news. The Compass Rose shooting board works seamlessly with these Veritas tools. Put the shooting board track on our shooting board and you'll see it's a perfect fit. Take a sharp pencil and trace the edge of the track onto the wooden fence. And after you take the fence off, you can saw and chisel a tiny bit of material off the corner of that fence. About 1/8 of an inch is perfect, just enough so the fence will slide back over the rim of that shooting board track. Once everything is screwed down, put your plane in place, make your final adjustments, and go to town. These things all work perfectly together because we designed our shooting board to work with these popular accessories. It's become really popular to have a shooting board that has a million different angles built in. But I've been woodworking for a while and I don't want that. I don't want a shooting board that does a bunch of angles. I want it to do one angle, 90 degrees. I want a shooting board that does one job repeatably and reliably over and over again. The Compass Rose shooting board is not a multi-tool, it's a single-use tool. It will square the ends of your boards, and that's it. Now, you might be wondering, what are you going to do when our shooting board wears out? Buy another one? No, that would be totally silly. By the time the Compass Rose shooting board wears out, and that's going to be years in the future, you're going to have all the skills you need to make your own shooting board. We don't want to sell you a shooting board every 5 years. We want to sell you one shooting board so you can get going with your woodworking. The shooting board is part of a series of tools that we call the Jumpstart series, and it includes our Sawyer's hooks and our advanced joiner's mallet kit. These are all things that are square, reliable, repeatable projects that you can make in a couple of hours. And yeah, it used to be traditional for woodworkers to build all of this stuff from scratch. But they didn't build this stuff alone. Woodworkers made their first mallet as part of an apprenticeship, or they made their first set of bench hooks over at a neighbor's house or an uncle's house. Woodworking was never a solitary thing. We're in a new age where we've got solo operators, usually taught on YouTube, working by themselves in basements and garages, and that's actually really hard. It's really hard to sort of get over the hump and develop the basic skills to do hand tool woodworking. You might need a little help with that. You might need a jumpstart. So we have a jumpstart series of tools to get you through those first couple of shop-made projects and jigs that you need to progress in the craft. And look, if you don't want to buy our shooting board, don't buy it. The last page of our free assembly guide has the complete measurements for our shooting board, so you can build your own. And if you have the time and materials and skill to build a flat and square shooting board, you should build your own. Don't buy ours in that case. Take the measurements and go make your own. That's the right thing to do. If you are interested in our shooting board, we are offering it at a great price, much better than the other commercially available shooting boards on the market, and we'd love for you to go check it out at compassrosetools.com. And don't forget to look at the other tools in our Jumpstart series, the Sawyer's hooks and the Joiner's mallet. They're pretty great projects too. Maybe you want to do all of them at the same time. Anyway, thanks for supporting Compass Rose Tools, and thanks for watching.